very similar for those listening to B2B that never have like built anything, just for people listening. Like it's similar to sales, right?
Exactly. Like you're talking about sales where it's the same thing as acquisition, activation, engagement, retention, right? It's just like different words for the same idea.
It's just the model, right? Like get people in, get them to sign up, make sure they use it, make sure they don't freaking churn.
People overcomplicate this. It doesn't need to be. Like business is so simple. Do people want to buy it? Can you sell it to them? That's it. The game is done.
Let's start with this post that went viral on Twitter for you. This founder that, okay, so I'm reading it now. He built a script that finds 100,000 calendar links of your target audience and schedules times on their calendar. That is crazy. So
it's ridiculous.
Somehow he's finding all the calendar links.
So from my understanding how it works, and I'm gonna talk to him like more, but this was just after like I got an intro from him from like friends of friends and this whole thing. And so anyways, he's young too. He's like 20, you know, and it's more just like, could I do it? And so that's why he did it. Right.
Yeah, he's like no plan with it. Just like, is this possible?
So he went. I posted on LinkedIn and is going viral right now. The same, like literally the same like thing as the tweet, right? As it's like a LinkedIn post, and people are like, I want this and I hate this. Like, you know, it's just like they're like, why would you? They're like, people are like, this will destroy your ICP. Like, they'll never talk to you. And it's like, I don't think it's about that. It's like, could I do this? Right? It was more the question, and it's like, yes, it works. So I don't know how it fits into the flow, but anyway. So the idea is that you can like take a business and how Calendly functions. Like, sorry, the business URL. Right. Mm-hmm. So like their website domain and how Calendly functions is you can basically like look up anybody like under that website domain. And then if there's a public Calendly link, they could find that and then schedule a time on it. So that's like the whole flow that he basically built out.
Wow.
And so anyways, I don't know, like from a sales perspective, if it makes sense. Like, I don't know personally if I would ever use this, but it's really interesting if you're like, okay, hey, I'm a startup and I'm trying to meet like anybody in this space just to like create that kind of initial, you know, momentum, which is like so hard when you're just beginning, right? It's like, how do I, like, where's that, you know, just how do I start those conversations with like people in the industry?
Yeah.
So it's like, if I can get on their calendars and like, and purely like not from a sales perspective, but it's just like, I'm just trying to meet you type of like coming in from that angle.
Yeah.
What he told me is basically like, that is how they kind of approached it and got super good, like receptive feedback, right? It's like, oh, I'm not trying to sell you anything. Like, I just wanted to meet you. Like, people are like, oh, well, yeah, well, tell me about you and what, you know, because they're like, once you get on the call and somebody's like not trying to like force anything on you, they're like pretty open to it, right?
Oh,
that's what
man.
I've seen. I don't know, like, again, I don't know if I will use this or do anything with it, but I just saw it and I was like, this is the most
dude,
I've seen in the last year.
This, I would be pumped just because if he told me how he did it and he did, like if he told me the story and that's how he figured out how to get a time with me,
totally,
I'd be like, you can have my 30 minutes, man. Like, tell me how you did this and like how you figured this out as a 20-year-old and like what your game, because I would just want to hear how you know, it's an interesting move that I'd want to learn about.
Totally.
I'm with you. I don't know if I'd use it, but there's this comment.
It makes me uncomfortable though. And like traditionally anything that makes me uncomfortable in growth, like is good in some way. Like if it's like, if it makes your stomach do a flip, right? And this is just like, you know, it's like everything in life. Like if you're a little bit nervous about it, like it's probably the right thing to do.
No, not everyone's doing it, which means it's probably not a good marketing. Well, it's probably a good tactic because not everyone's doing it, you know, like,
and then we'll get blown out. Like there's, you know, it's like everything. Like in the beginning, it doesn't feel like marketing.
Yeah.
It feels like novel. Like it feels like a new idea, which is just kind of crazy. But like, I guess like if you show up in this meeting to them, like to somebody else, it's not going to feel like that. It's just like, you're just in this meeting. But I mean,
I wonder,
it's
like,
crazy to me.
Someone's going to show up. Like, I bet most of the people, if he goes through with this, are going to be like, hey, what's this meeting about? And then he's going to be like, well, I just put it on your calendar.
Exactly. He's like, oh, I just wanted to meet you. And so I don't know. I mean, he did it in a totally different way, right? Like, again, he's like 20, he's a crazy good engineer and just like was like, I'm just going to put like they scraped a list of VC emails or something, or like all the Calendlys are basically VCs.
Yeah.
And he's like, like, let me just see how many I can meet him, you know? He's like, yeah, I met like 150 different VCs, right? And he's 20. Like he's like,
invest just because his mind's like just his
thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
So I think raw. I feel like there's probably a refined version of this. Is like how I'm personally thinking about this. It's like this feels very raw. I don't know if it will go anywhere, but there is probably a refined version of this that's like more effective.
Yeah, maybe what you could do is like, what if you can tie their email to their calendar, which you probably could if you got that, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you got the confirmation that you like signed up for this thing.
Yeah, or if you tie the email to it. So if you have the calendar, maybe you can get the email and then you can cold email with a system and then say, wanted to chat about X. Is this your correct Calendly link? And then maybe throw it on there. I don't know. Maybe it's like
totally.
That obviously you're not going to, it decreases your chances a lot, but like if you're doing it for 100,000 people, I'm sure you'll still get some hits, right? Like even 1% of that is what 1,000 people. And like, can you even still take 1,000 meetings? No, like
I know. Yeah.
Like so maybe that's the route, right? Like,
dude. Okay, so like he told me what they're gonna do. Like this was like V1, right? And then the next thing that they're building is like they're gonna have an AI that is a clone of them take all these meetings, right? Like,
oh my god. No.
And he's like, I'm just doing it to do it, you know? And I'm over here and I'm like, the degenerate in me is like, well, what happened? Like, I just want to be like, I just want to be involved in it to see what goes on.
Can we give this kid like a YouTube channel or something? This is like
totally.
Okay.
I'm having him on the pod like next week and he's gonna talk about all. I'm just gonna like, it's, you know, just brain dump all this.
It's
like
what
are you learning?
AI bot on the pod.
I hope it's him. Who knows though?
Dude, what if you here's another, what if you hit every pod with an AI version of you? Like, I bet people are going to do that. Like, you're just
100%.
That's actually 100%. A crazy idea. Like, you cold email.
I just figured out how to scrape all of the podcast emails, by the way. This is we can go here if you want, but there's basically this public index of every podcast in the like world. And they have URLs of the businesses that are like related to the podcast. And you can extract those URLs within like any categories. You could say like business or entrepreneurship or marketing, whatever, right? And then all those URLs, you can take them, you can put them into like Hunter or Snove, and you can find all of the emails that are associated with that business or with that URL that's related to the podcast. It's like, imagine you have a podcast that's like XYZ Marketing Podcast, right? And then their website is like XYZ Marketing. And then I go and find, you know, John, Jamie, you know, Sarah at XYZ Marketing or XYZmarketing.com. Right.
Yeah.
And you can just like cold email them and be like, hey, I want to come on the pod. So like this is this whole like,
wow, no way.
I'm gonna start experimenting with this.
Did you write just a script for this or something? Or like what's
it's like straight up a database that you can extract from. It's super manual right now, but like I found 330,000 podcasts that have published an episode in the last 30 days. And then I can get it down to like category specific, right? Where it's like, you know, it can be any podcast category. But as a founder, this is a way that you can just like, you could cold email your way into like doing PR for yourself, basically. And then the pitch is like, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm building XYZ. I want to come talk to you about ABC. Here's other podcasts I've already been on. You know, give them 3 links to ones that you've already been a part of, where you just bring the fire. And then they're like, okay, cool. Like, but it's like, if I send, you know, we'll just say there's 30,000 or say there's 10,000 business podcasts, right? That have published in the last 30 days. And I find, you know, 3 emails for each of those. That's 30,000 emails. Like I could hit all of those in a month. And if we just get 0.1% of those to convert, right?
Then it's huge. Like, it's still like crazy.
I mean, that's
100 pod episodes. Or however many. Public math. Public math.
If I get 1% of them to convert, that's 100 podcasts, right? And like overnight, you just zero to one your brand.
I mean, after 100 out, that's 3 weeks.
All the links from that. Like you just built like 100 backlinks to your. So it's funny. This idea came from another friend that's doing. They're calling it digital PR. It's like kind of this thing that's becoming more and more popular. But it's like, how do we pitch you to, you know, online, like not like Forbes, but like these other sites, or podcasts or whatever. Like, you know, as a founder, basically getting you in these places. But sorry, I totally digressed away from the calendar.
No, this is good. So what's your plan with this with Swell? Because Swell is your podcast product where you upload your MP4. And if I'm butchering this,
I'm curious to hear how you think about it.
Yeah. You upload your MP4 file of your podcast. The AI takes that and gives you everything you basically need from that podcast for your website: show notes, a summary, maybe a bio of the speaker you're talking to, and then now you added it like creates clips for you or something, right? Like
100%. Yeah.
In like Opus clips or some shit like that.
Yeah. So Swell AI is more and more I'm calling it a content repurposing tool. So you take an audio or video file and you can turn it into anything you want. Right. So like we have a client where they write 21 tweets. So they have 3 a day for a week. They write 5 different LinkedIn posts off of the episode. They write a full length blog post that's like 1,200 words. They write email newsletter that they send out to their audience. They do a mid-roll ad. So they promote other episodes within the show. So they write like a script, like a mid-roll ad script. And then they also like make clips within it. Right. So it's like we highlight sections that we think are the most viral, and then your team can go in, they select like the part of the transcript, they hit create clip, and it makes a clip. And so for them, it's like just like this content engine, right? So it's like how I use it as a founder is like I podcast every week, and I take that episode, and that takes an hour of my time to record that, and I throw it into Swell, and an hour later I have all the content that I would need for the week, right? So that's the whole idea basically behind it. But this is kind of the initial version of this, and how we're thinking about it is like it's just at the episode level. I want to go with this is like, okay, well, what about your whole back catalog of content live? Like, so every episode that you've ever published, or anything, how do you import? You basically upload that whole catalog in, and then from that I can repurpose it into anything. So it creates a way for my content team to like, instead of having to like, they can just go mine our own data, right, and just pull out the things that are like, like, okay, write me 20 tweets about telehealth, right, or find me clips where they mention LinkedIn ads, and they just go it can go and mine your own internal data, pull out that information for whatever content we're trying. Anyways, that's where we see we're going. That's where we are currently.
And then with that, I've got like a couple ideas for you on that, right?
I would love it, please.
The first is like the next step of that. And I come from Taplio. We built Taplio scheduling tools. You should just build a simple scheduler to get out those tweets and then get them out on LinkedIn, right? That way they don't have to leave the platform. That's one. And then another one is like, I think a sick lead magnet that you could build in order to get people like interested in Swell and like aware of it, because I'm all about lead magnets, obviously.
I know.
Is you could do a few things for this, right? Like you could do like a podcast headline generator, right? Like
totally.
Right? Like that's free. Upload your file, give you 10 headlines, boom. That way people can easily use that. 2, you can do a database of all the podcasts out there. You can basically rescrape that and then show like what are the most active, and then like you can even like have an email database of all these people. That's something interesting. Dude, I had one this morning that this was on the fly. There was a really good one, and now I can't really think of. Totally forgot. I was like, oh, I should.
It'll come back to you. Well, what's in our product roadmap right now is like free transcription. So you just upload a podcast episode, and it like we figured out how to do transcription like really accurately for really cheap. So like how I'm thinking about it is like we just go in a road like rev.com, right? So anyways, long story short, like you would just like upload your MP3 file, and it transcribes this, and we're building like transcription streaming, so you can like you'll visually be able to see it like transcribing like in real time. And then the idea is like like chat with PDF, like how it's imagine that interface. It's the same thing. It's just like chat with transcript. So it like transcribes it, and then you can chat with it. And like that's the lead method. We're trying to erode the lower end of the market as well.
Tell
this is a way to do that. So like tons of competitors and that are coming into this, right? Like everybody's trying to build everything in this. And if there's a free tool that I don't have to pay for, am I going to go and use one of these other ones? Like even if they are cheap, like this thing will do the thing that I'm looking for, right? Like if I can have it where it's like, if it's a chat with PDF interface for my like it gives me a free transcript and I can chat with it. I can go and make, whatever pieces of content. Because really like what Swell does, and like this is the thing that we're just starting to communicate like more effectively, is like Swell helps you build content templates so that you're not like chatting with the thing every time, right? How I think about content marketing is like, I'm trying to create a process that I'm doing every week or every day and automate as much of that as I can. And like, you're really good at this, right? And you could talk, but like what Swell is basically like, it's the machine behind that whole thing is how. So like to get really specific now, like I can build a template that's like, cool, like here's 20 tweets, here's 5 LinkedIn posts with about key takeaways from the episode. Those are pre-saved output that I can modify. Like I can prompt the AI to have it write whatever I want about the transcript, right? But then I can save those blocks for future use produce so that every time I upload something into it, it just automatically generates that output, right?
Nice.
Rather than me having to go back and like interact with the AI and I have to do 20 prompts to get all the things I want. No, it's just like, boom, I upload and 5 minutes later, I have everything that I could want written about the episode, right? And so it's a content repurposing tool. Like that's what this turns into long term.
Because that's essentially what you do, right? Like you want to systematize it. If you want it to work, you got to systematize it in some way. So if you can say after each, like I'm doing that with this, right? Like after each. So when we're done recording here, I send it to, you know, my editor, right? Person edits it. He's going to send it back. Then I'm going to get it on. I'm going to hit up my thumbnail person for YouTube. I've already thought this out. I'm like, I haven't really done it yet, but then I need to put it on Transistor. I need to get it out on the podcast. I need to get the thumbnail made so that I can put it on YouTube. And then I need to actually create the text for my newsletter so that I can send it out via the newsletter. So it's like, it's always the same thing. So automating that would be amazing.
It's like you do with LinkedIn, right? Like you're like an OG with LinkedIn. And what is your process? It's like find viral stuff, remix it. And like I do that. I have my post structure of here's what I do every day, right? Yeah. And I'm just doing that same process over and over again. And that's how you do that's how you do marketing. That is marketing. Like at its core.
It's just the consistency over time, right?
Totally. And then you analyze the data and you look through, of course, like all that still happens. But like you can basically say I find like, podcasts that talk about these things, like they go viral more. Why do they, what's the common thread between those? Oh, well, they all mention, this specific thing, or they talk about this thing. So like the next time I record an episode, I try to steer the conversation that direction. And then I also can have like Swell or whatever your AI tool you're using. Like I can tell it, hey, I want you to write, like always mention this thing when you write this, right? So that it's so you can basically like, you can create these templates. Like I'm thinking about it more and more like Notion, right? Like with Notion, I have like these templates that are like pre-saved blocks. Well, imagine a pre-saved block that's an AI that can like do a thing for you, like every time that I give it something, right? So I give it this like raw materials and I'm like, okay, AI, like go refine these raw materials and like I want these outputs and these formats with this style, like this tone, voice, style. Like you can pre-save that. And that's what we're building. Like that's what I'm obsessed about too. And like what we're, just being a prophet about. So
this is good, dude. And like the thing that makes me think about it, because you're just like automating what like an agency would do essentially, right? Like that's so crazy.
I'm watching these kids right now build these media brands. Like this is a whole other thing. But like I'm watching these kids where they're like probably 25, but they're just interviewing like founders and people that are making companies, right? Yeah. And it used to probably take a team of 5 people to do what they're doing with Riverside, with like Swell AI and with like Descript as their editor, right? Or whatever. I mean, they're not even doing like, they're just pulling it out of like Riverside. Yeah. So like they're building these media companies. Like these media companies will be $1 million companies, right? Yeah. Like they're gonna have 100,000 downloads a month, and it's gonna be only like it's gonna be founders listening to the podcast. They could go sell that CPM like so easily, or if they sell their own product on the top of it, like that's like it's the same thing that we're doing, right? Like it's just a different version. Like, but what I'm trying to say is that like content production, like the post production, has become easier than ever before. So now it's just like, how do I create raw materials? How do I build the processes that like repurpose all this and just let that machine run? And again, like when I was at previous companies, when I was working at venture-backed companies, I had a team of 10 people that would do this, right? Like that would be writing articles and and making clips, and like we'd be working with freelancers and this whole thing. And now it's like, oh, if you have one person that understands conceptually how all these fit together, you can get it 90% of the way there, like 90% good as like if you had an expert on that thing. Of course I'm going to do that, right? It's way faster, it's way cheaper, like and it builds this content engine. So I just think that this whole like content marketing is I mean, it's in an evolution right now. It's absolutely just every day it's changing. So
2 things on that. The first is it's almost more than one person these days with like running this content engine is kind of almost slows it down. It's like deteriorate, like it basically makes it worse. Like it honestly maybe slows it down after a couple of people. I wonder what the threshold will be if you're using all the right tooling now, all the right AI that does all this, and you're able to get it out. Like where it starts to actually be of less value to add more people, right? Because then you don't need them. Like you don't need it, and it's kind of crazy because you're right. You see, like I see it in B2B specifically, like there's creators, man. Like I'm a one-man show when it comes to my content. Like I have my assistant basically help me push it out and like, do some stuff. But like I'm writing the content, I'm doing most of the distribution and stuff. But like I'm a one-man show, and not me specifically, but like multiple creators in general, they're pushing out more content than 30-person marketing. Like it's insane, right? Like it honestly blows my mind.
I'm watching this YouTuber right now, and he like every day, I swear, it's like he's getting like 1,000 subs, and he's in the SEO space. And his name's Julian Goldie. He's awesome content. Like it's amazing, honestly. But
what makes it amazing?
What
makes it amazing?
It is so raw. It's like him on a Loom talking through some like system that he made for like content production or link building, or like it's like, and he was on a podcast. So he went on this other podcast, and the guy asked him like, how, like, what's your setup? Like, do you have a team that you're using with this? He's like, bro, I sit down for 10 minutes. I record the YouTube video. I throw it into the script. I remove all the ums and ahs, and it is live in an hour. Like in 30 minutes to an hour, the content is up and exists, right? And like, I'm over here thinking, he's like, well, why don't you have a team? Like, isn't that like, he's like, it would take more mental energy for me to manage a team than it is for me to just produce it and use these tools now. And for me, it was like this epiphany, like, yeah, of course. Like, I agree. Do all these handoffs and like, where is it going? What's happening? And I'm over here and I'm like, yo, I can like say this was my pod, right? Like we record in Riverside, and I have it out and I have it edited in 10 minutes. And I'm not thinking about like, it can be raw. Like it doesn't need to be perfect. Like if it's 90% good, I'm totally chill with that in a startup, right? It's different if you're whatever, like almost, enterprise, right? Yeah, exactly. Because what happens is like, okay, cool. Then I go and I chop this up into like, 10 different clips. I post it across all channels. We see which goes the most viral. That drives traffic podcast. And like, they're already bought in because they saw a viral clip and they're like, okay, I want the whole context of that whole thing, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say, like what I'm having more of a trouble with like right now is like how, like all of it, but I know that I can't. So it's like limiting myself to being like, what are the few things that I'm focused? Like, I think I really have podcasting locked in right now. So it's like more of my energy is going towards that. And then it's like, if there are but also I'm a growth person, right? So I'm like, I want to know how YouTube works. So I'm like, how, like, I want to get over there and start getting my feet wet there. Cause like I've seen, like my friend showed me this. I've talked about this a million times. It's ridiculous. But so I'm going to start from like where all algorithms are going from the data we're seeing. Okay. So all social algorithms are going to For You page content. What that means is it's content that's served to you based off of what they think you're most likely to stay on platform. So you don't even have to know the person, right? Like how do you go, like this is how you go viral on LinkedIn. This is how you go viral on YouTube Shorts. This is how you go viral on Instagram Reels. This is how you go viral on TikTok, right? This is how you go viral on Twitter now with their For You page. All of this trying to see like what they're testing content against it, like different content pieces against each other and seeing what's most likely for you to stay, because they're like how they make money is they retain you, right? It's your attention
more
on the
ads,
platform.
more time, platform, more ads. Yep.
Exactly. So all the data we're seeing is pointing towards that. So what we've been trying to understand is like, okay, well, how are these algorithms actually working so that we can basically game them? And what we've identified as the way to do this is that when you touch a profile now, you leave the platform, and then the next time you come back, suddenly in your Instagram feed, you get like served a piece of content from that creator, right?
Yeah.
And the YouTube short, it's the same thing. Like you come back and your homepage is like, it serves you other shorts from that creator. And then depending on if you click on that then trains it. Like, okay, every time they come back, we want to show them this thing. This is happening. It's the same thing. Like why is it on LinkedIn that when you when you engage with somebody's profile, you start to see their comments everywhere. You start to see their posts everywhere, right? It's because they think that you like content that this person makes. And so they're just going to serve that over and over again. They think like it's going to retain you more. Okay. So how do you game this now? So we've been testing this.
Okay.
And what we found is that like, if I just go viral, like I'm playing this game of like, I'm trying to go viral so people touch my profile so that they get into my gravity, right?
Yeah. They get into your funnel essentially through the algorithm, basically.
But I can pay for that same thing to happen. So I can pay for Instagram engagement ads that has a call to action, like go view this profile, like for more content like this, right? When they go view that profile and they touch your Instagram, you're getting them into the top of funnel. So as long as you're posting daily, you're going to start showing up in their explore feed and their discover page. All of the you're going to you can basically like game the initial touch and create a larger like amount of people that are having that first interaction with your social account.
Yeah.
So apply this to YouTube. They did this not even for shorts. This was for like long form videos. So my friend did this. So they were like, you know what? We're going to take our most viral YouTube video that we already had, and we're going to start showing the whole video length. It's like a 40-minute long video, right? It's like a tutorial thing. And we're going to show that at the beginning of other videos that are related to it. Like, imagine it was like Chat GPT link building or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so they targeted videos that are about like link building with Chat GPT. They put their 40-minute video in front of that. And so what they found is that people engaged with the profile because they're like, oh, this isn't an ad. This is like a tutorial, right? And it's relevant to the thing that I'm trying to do.
So, and just to stop you there. Yep. So I go into the YouTube ad platform.
Yep.
And I say, I want to do ads, or, I've never screwed with it. So this is literally beginners kind of like mindset here. And then I go into the ad. So I go into my YouTube channel. I go to the ads part of it. I go and I say, hey, I want to create an ad. And they go, great, upload what you want an ad for. And you say, all right, here's my 40-minute video. And then you select your interest or whatever. And then you say backlink or whatever. And then you hit publish ad and, you put your price per day or whatever. And then that shows up on other people's videos as a 40-minute video. And then when they click on it, it actually goes to your profile.
Yep.
And then when
they can even if they just watch the video, that's like an engagement in YouTube's eyes. So the data I saw, that's my friend's data. So they turn these ads on for a single video, right? And the graph for their entire YouTube channel just goes like this, right? There's this like ad goes on, but the whole YouTube channel, every video starts to pop off. And they're like, oh my God, like all we're doing is we're introducing people to the brand, to the to the channel. And then the next they're now introduced, they consumed, whatever, 20 minutes of this thing. So YouTube is thinking, oh, this person, this channel is a good, like the content from it is a good thing to keep them engaged. So let's show them this stuff the next time they come back to the platform. So that's just on YouTube, right? Apply that to every channel. You can grow these social accounts right now, just like ridiculous. And we're doing this. Like we added like tons of Instagram. Like so, where this
How do I do this on
Instagram?
How do I do this on Instagram?
I'll show you. I'll show you. So, but like the ad. So like just to talk through it so that the audience has it. The ad is you're doing an engagement campaign on Facebook ads.
Yeah.
And you're targeting only people that are on the Instagram platform that are in the discover or the feed, right? So no Instagram stories, etc. And then you have what we did is we tested like 10 pieces of viral content against each other, and we have a call to action that's literally like follow follow at XYZ account for more content like this. So a certain percentage of people click that at button. It's like literally the at URL, but on Instagram it's a hyperlink. So it takes them right to the profile. A certain percentage click it.
Yeah.
They then go and follow that account. It introduces them to the profile. So you get this knock-on effect. As long as you're posting daily, they come back to the platform, they just get shown content from your account because Instagram now thinks, oh, this person engaged with it. Maybe they watched a couple videos. Like they probably like this. And that's how you create this for you page virality. So we did this I did this for a friend, and we saw like 30% follows.
Wow.
Overnight, like 10x the organic impressions that were happening on the account, not the paid impressions, the organic impressions, because we were introducing more people top of funnel and they were posting daily.
Yes,
exactly. And it creates more likelihood to go viral. And it's basically just a way to game that initial piece, right? Which is the hardest part. Like, how do you get, like on Twitter, it's like, how do you get your first 1,000 followers? Once you get that, if you post daily, you're going to be fine. Like, you're going to grow like 1,000, like 100%, you're going to grow. Yeah. LinkedIn, it's probably, I'd say your first 10,000 followers. I would assume you probably know more than this. Like once there's a tipping point with all of these platforms. Once you get past this, it just like starts to propagate itself.
It's like 30 on LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn it doesn't matter. This is actually funny because LinkedIn has always had the same type of algorithm.
It's ridiculous,
right? Like it's kind of crazy.
And they did it because it was like they didn't have enough content.
Yeah.
Not do it. That's the funny part with this is because like nobody was like being a LinkedIn influencer didn't exist until like 2 years ago or something, you know? And because nobody was posting on it, it was lame. But now like it was like it's funny because like to me how I view it is like they had to do it it because it was like a necessity to even have anybody engage. But everybody has now come full circle and they're like, actually, like people just want to watch things that entertain them. So let's just put the most entertaining thing to them in front of them. So
yeah, and it's like coming full circle because LinkedIn's like, oh, now y'all are, everyone hated on LinkedIn, right? And I'm obviously a LinkedIn, like, you know, like maximist or whatever you want to call it, right? I don't even know if that's the right word, but you know, English is my second language, so yeah, Spanish first. So whatever
the Spanish, baby.
yeah, we can do this all in Spanish. I'll tell you what the right word it is. But whatever that word is, obviously I love LinkedIn. But it's funny, that same thing you just described. I'm like, hey, you have, if you DM someone on LinkedIn and they DM you back, their shit starts to pop up at the top of your feed, right? It's like kind of crazy. So like this is a little game that a lot of like ghostwriters and play is like they just DM as many people that comment on their stuff as possible because they know that compounds because then that starts to show up on their feed. So it's not all, and maybe I never told you about this, but
no. This is new. I mean, I have a post going viral right now. I'm gonna go DM 70 people like immediately.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for liking the post. How's it going? Right? Like literally totally. That same thing.
Yeah, with no ask, no sales,
no ask, just what's up?
Just like what's up? How you doing?
That's the game, dude. That's the game, right? Like, I actually need to do more of that and have my assistant help me out there. But yeah, dude, that's
so Twitter. Twitter, it's go like if I start a new account, what I would do tomorrow is you go follow 5,000 people over the span of like 30 to 60 days. It'll like you can only follow so many people at a time.
Yeah.
Like as long as you're following people that will like your content, you're going to see a 20% follow back ratio. So if you follow 5,000, and that's the limit that Twitter will allow you to do on a new account, you're going to get 1,000 followers back. If you're posting 5 times a day, the account will naturally just start to grow because the audience, like as long as it's insightful and all that shit, right? But like that's the way to do it there. So what I'm trying to figure out is like, okay, well, like how do we do this on YouTube? How do we do this on every channel, right? What is that tipping point that we can get these things to? Yeah. And then that's how you 0 to 1 brands, right?
Yeah. Well, I started screwing with, just so we can get through a real example, I started screwing with some meta ads, right, for distribute. And what I'm doing now is I'm running ads, not to like straight up distribute, but to, I'm writing an email course called a 5-day lead magnet challenge, right?
Sweet.
And so basically it's free. So basically we're getting the emails within that challenge. We basically sprinkle in distribute, and you using distribute create the lead magnet, right? That's basically, and I sent you a video on this because we're always chatting in the text thread.
Totally.
Like, yo, what are you trying? Oh, dude, I'm trying this out. It's actually really fun.
I live for this also. Yeah. Like this is half of why these podcast stuff is like why I'm doing. It's just like it gives me an excuse to talk to the people that I know that are just like doing incredible things and be like, tell me everything you saw this week.
Yeah, or like exactly.
This last month, and teach me everything that's working, and then I'm gonna reciprocate and give you everything back that I'm seeing, right? And then what this podcast is that we just do it in public because then people are like, oh, well, I want to learn these things too that these people that are on the front lines are saying.
Yeah, and I hope everyone steals this stuff. I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, don't give away your secrets. I'm like, the amount of people that will actually go and do this is like,
dude, I have preached podcasting.
Go do it, but like,
podcasting for the last 2 years for like B2B brand building, and I have watched 2 people out of the hundreds that I've talked to actually do anything with this, right? Like you are one of them.
And there's one other guy.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like it's you and it's Yon, right? Like which is my buddy who runs the In the Growth podcast or in Growth We Trust podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyways, it's like it's hard. Like it's still hard. Like you can have the entire playbook, but you still have to do the fucking work. Like everybody's like, oh, like you like I bet that on the LinkedIn thing you get this all the time. Like, oh, you have 170,000 followers. It's like, yeah, but I grinded for the first 30,000, right? It was impossible. It was probably the hardest thing ever.
It was literally like you want to pull your hair out, dude. Like it was one of the hardest things. Honestly, building an audience, dude, is one of the hardest things to do.
It is 100%. Like I literally write 70 tweets a week.
Yeah.
Right. Like that is my Twitter. But the payoff is that in the last 72 hours, I've gotten 1.5 million impressions on because things popped off and went viral. Right.
Yeah. And you never know what it's going to be. Right.
100%. But that's 9 months of 70 tweets a week. Like
That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, I need to tweet more.
Now it's like, but now it's like, okay, start a business, right? And the 0 to 1 is instant. Like this was probably the same for you with distribute. Like you have 170,000 people that follow you. You talk about it for like a month, right? And you probably get your first customers where it's like, cool, we got to 10K a month or whatever. We are sustainable at the, or whatever. Like that is why you build this thing. And this is also where I think like founders are going. Like it's like founder-led growth. It's like founder-led sales, founder-led growth. But the founder-led growth now is like, oh, you already have an audience. You have all this owned media that's like around you. And then it's like whenever you want, you're just like new company, plop. It just like goes on the rails for distribution. And overnight you 0 to 1 this brand, right?
Yeah. Dude, I had a buddy the other day that had an idea. You always have friends that are like have ideas, and he wants to build this AI app. And he goes, dude, I want to get started on building it. Like, should I find can you help me find someone to build it? And I go, I could, dude, but I wouldn't start building it yet. And he goes, what are you talking about? And I go, dude, what I would do first is learn how to build your audience and build an audience, and then spoon feed them some things to see if they would want this, and actually build an audience first and focus there before you build any kind of product. And like for some people, I just think if you were to bet on one or the other, or starting like a new app now with zero distribution, or starting with trying to build distribution and figure out how to get people's attention, how to do all that, your odds are going to be better if you were to place a bet. I bet your odds would be better in building an audience first and starting an AI tool, right? And there's anomalies to that, but if I was a betting man, I don't gamble. I can tell a story on why.
I'll gamble for you.
Yeah. I don't gamble at the casino. I gamble with putting shit out and hopefully it sticks, right? Oh, the Facebook thing. Let's go back to that.
Yeah. Go to the, yeah, sorry. I keep pulling this away from it. Go to Facebook.
And like, the question is like, is that good or not? Like, because again, I'm like an organic guy and I'm just starting to mess around with this paid. Like, is 68 PA good for a $49 a month product? I mean,
so you need to look at the CAC from, so basically you work the numbers back. So like how I think about it is like, okay, I'm getting a $6 CPA. Say my customer lifetime value is $400, right?
Yeah.
And my conversion rate from sign up to paid is 10%. So that would mean that if I wanted to get like one paid person and it's 10%, so I need to times that by 10. So if I'm paying $6, that means I'm paying $60 to get a paid person.
Yeah.
They may only pay me $29 the first month, but I know the customer lifetime value is $400, right?
Yeah.
So I'm paying $60 to get $400 in total lifetime revenue. And that's the game you're playing, is like, so it's like, okay, cool. Like, and then you measure, like, is that worth it for us? Like if I'm paying 60 to get 400, that's a return on ad spend of 6. Personally, I would be looking at that and I'd be like, yeah, that's worth it, right? Because it's like it's like an ATM where I put $1 in and 6 comes out. I'm going to put as many dollars into that ATM as I possibly can, like, until it stops working. And that's like, when I think about paid ad spend, that's what I'm thinking about. You're getting $6 CPAs, man. Like, are they converting? That's the other question. Like, that's
what I need to figure out, right? That's 6 CPA for the challenge sign up, which takes them through getting distribute the free trial. So I probably need to do the math on like, hey, with the conversion rate from those people that actually, it's actually, dude, really high. Like if I looked at Mixpanel this morning, people that sign up for the free trial that then convert to paid is 40%.
That's insane. That's insane, Andy. Like ours is 10% and we think we're crushing it.
Okay. Well, my sample size is like 500 people or something like that. And then they stay for like 3 months on average. Well, we launched 3 months ago. So
yeah. I mean,
so
you don't even know, right?
Okay. So
like we just got to a year's worth of data. So it's like our data is accurate, right? So like, but like literally the dashboard that we have is signups. Actually, it's homepage traffic, signups, and then we map like how long it's taking for that sign up to conversion to happen. And our average is like 14 days. It's actually crazy. So like from them initially signing up to them purchasing, the average is 14 days. And so then we have this delay, right? Where it's like, we'll see a massive spike in traffic, which creates a massive spike in signups. And we know that 14 days later, 10% of them are going to convert or whatever, right? Yeah, so we can start to plan around that. But you're just basically, it's like
working backwards, right?
You're working backwards. It's like, okay, cool. Like my CPA is 6. I know from the nurture, this percentage end up in the free trial. And I know that 40% from the free trial end up actually converting. Okay, cool. So like so say I have 100 people that I pay for to get to sign up for the nurture. And so that costs me $600. And then we see that 10 of them actually sign up for the free trial. So that's 10 people. And 40% of that 10 actually turn into customers. So, whatever that is, 4 people. So I paid $600 to get 4 people. So my CAC is, do that math. So my CAC is 150. And then it's like, okay, if they're staying 3 months, what basically, what's the money I'm making back on that? So that's kind of the math that we look at, funnel math. So
yeah, shit. Yeah. I'm going to make like a calculator for this.
Yeah. So that's when you're like looking at a specific channel. I think more and more about what I call blended CAC. I mean, everybody calls it blended CAC, but like this is how I reference it. There's different names, but blended CAC is the most general. So the idea is basically like your cost per sign up from everywhere, including organic. And what you're trying to do is like have a downward trend of that over time, right?
Yeah.
And like, so you're basically looking at, okay, like, and that, that's why we do remarketing. That's why we do organic social. That's why we do all these other things, because we're basically saying like, hey, we think that like we can decrease our blended CAC over time and increase our customer lifetime value over time as the product gets better. So
nice.
Like if those two things, like we're trying to, both of those, like that customer lifetime value over time, we're trying to make that go up, and then we're trying to decrease blended CAC over time. Like those are the metrics where I'm like, is this company healthy? Like I look at those things and you can instantly know like, okay, cool, they're going to survive, right? If those things are in those directions, like that's all the signal you need. Basically, this thing is going to work. But
that's the interesting part for me, because it's like it's so early, right? And so I'm like, like I don't have like really an LTV, right? Like what's your lifetime
100%.
value? You don't have it, so you're kind of like, and that's where you work backwards from. And so you're kind of like, well, I think it's going to be this,
Totally.
So it's super interesting. So I think you just got to keep.
I think in those early days too, it's like it's focusing. So I work off of the acquisition, activation, engagement, retention, growth model. So like basically what that is like, here's all the things that you need to care about to like make your company grow, right? So it's like acquisition, you get people to sign up. Activation, you get them to actually use the product and pay you for it. Engagement, they're using it daily, they're using it weekly, they're using it monthly, whatever that number is. And then retention, they don't churn. Like if you just focus on those 4 things, like you can make your company grow. But the engagement and the retention piece, like I don't even think about those until I've solved acquisition and activation, right? Like until I've got that locked in, it's like, and especially when it's this early, like 90 days, like you don't even know. We don't, we know nothing.
No, nothing.
So it's like,
no, nothing.
It's better to just get more people in the product, like as many as we can, as cheaply as we can, and then just basically try to get them to activate. And I don't know, it's B2B, right? Like this shit. Like it's we're working off of shit data. Like it's never the full picture. You're just like making decisions off of like, well, like I have a little bit of data and my gut is telling me this, so I think we're gonna do this, right? That's always how it is, especially in the beginning stages. Because it's just so expensive to do it otherwise. Like if you wanted to go and actually track all this and like set up segment and like add like tie it all to Mixpanel and tag every user and like create a first person cookie, like all these things, like the amount of like talent you would need to do that is just not worth the price. So it's like, cool, you're gonna have to work blind and be comfortable on that. Anyway, that's more the audience. You already know these things. You've done this before, right?
No, but anyway. Well, it's very similar for those listening to B2B that never have like built anything. Just for people listening, like it's similar to sales, right? Like if you don't get your prospecting from a B2B like outbound perspective, if you don't get your prospecting down, then fixing stuff mid funnel and later in the funnel, it doesn't matter. You got to fix up here first before you're trying to fix down here, right? Like, because if you can't get people in the door, then none of the other stuff really matters, right? So
exactly,
like, long term. And someone really made this stick. It was I was at a party in Austin, and I was like, all right, so like you're a CFO. You've been a CFO of all these sick companies, like awesome, cool, great brand companies. Like what really matters, like at the end of the day, like what do you like really, what keeps you up at night? Like really? And he's like, honestly, pipeline. He's like, I'm a CFO of all the shit that these people know as CFOs and all the financial things. He's like, pipeline. He's like, that's it. He's like, I'm pipeline, because if you don't have that, nothing else matters. So he's like, that's what I'm obsessed with as a CFO, right? And I was like,
100%.
An amazing one. And you're like, shit, like and this guy knows financials of companies. So that shows you that this whole activation part, I mean, you got to get that down before you get anything down, right?
100%. 100%.
So,
And people focus on all this other stuff, man. It drives me crazy with product people like that are like, the product will grow itself. I'm like, no, it will not. Like,
no.
like Airbnb, they're like Airbnb grew itself. It's like, no, Airbnb went on Craigslist and they direct messaged people to list on Airbnb. Like they cannibalized another platform, right?
Yeah.
What did Uber do? Like every one of them have done, they take an established thing and they launch themselves off of that other established thing, right? So
Yeah.
it's ridiculous to me. They use these examples like like PayPal is another great one. Like they launched themselves off of eBay. Like they didn't
Yeah.
just like come into existence, right? Like the product, it doesn't matter. Like the product is less important in the beginning than like your product has to be good enough that you can get people to sign up for it, right?
Yeah.
That's like pretty easy. Like that can be a landing page and some like here's the benefits you get from this thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then it's like, how the hell do I get traffic? How do I get them to give me their name and email? And how do I get them to actually have that aha moment as fast as possible? Like as soon as like it kills me how many. I was just talking to a friend about this yesterday. He's building this thing in the cybersecurity space. It's like this AI tool, but he's like, dude, we're getting signups, but like we're not getting them to activate. And I was like, cool, let me look at the funnel. It was 7 landing pages before they got to the actual aha moment. Like they're asking them all this information and being like, message your colleagues and all. Like, no, like it is sign up form immediately after. Show them this thing that is like the job to be done that you automated. Show them that thing.
Yeah.
And you can ask them for all that other information later. But you're just like, you have their attention span for like 60 seconds. You have to convince them in 60 seconds when it's self-service, right? You have their attention span for 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Like you have to convince them in those 60 seconds that this thing is going to solve the problem that they're trying to solve. Because at no other point in the sales cycle or the activation cycle, like, do you have that much focus on your thing? So,
yeah.
I mean, it's just like sales. All of this is the same. Like everything is the same. All the frameworks are the same. It's just remixed for the different things.
Yeah,
like,
it's all remixed, right? Like it's in a different packaging, essentially.
Exactly. Like you're talking about sales, where it's like you're doing prospecting, and then you're doing active. You know, it's the same thing as acquisition, activation, engagement, retention, right?
Yeah,
it's just like different words for the same ideas.
Yeah,
so.
It's just the model, right? Like get people in,
exactly.
Like get them to sign up, make sure they use it, and make sure they don't freaking churn.
Dude, it drives me nuts. I mean, like. People overcomplicate this. It doesn't need to be. Like business is so simple. It's, do people want to buy it? Can you sell it to them?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. That's it. The game is done, right?
Yeah.
Now, when we expand on that, it's really fucking hard to do that.
Yeah.
But like at its core, it's every business. Like if you look at over, the last 200 years of, capitalism in the US, like it is the same thing. They had a thing that people wanted to buy, they could make it and they built it and then they could sell it, right?
Yeah.
But if those two sides of the coin weren't like functioning, you just don't have a business. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah.
And like the AAER is just a more complicated version of that. But at the core, it's just that same thing. So.
Yeah. And similarly, I kind of tell people this, like when they're wanting to build something, they want to build this like, product that like is, the next SpaceX or some shit. Let's just say that. And I'm like, no, dude, take something that already exists and make it 10% better. Like, that's what 100%. Like, I don't want to throw shade, but that's basically what distribute is. I took something that I know solves a specific issue, and I'm like, people do not like that product. It's in a B2B SaaS world, right? It's not self-serve. You can't like sign up for it, and then when you do, it's expensive as hell. Implementation. I implemented this last product. It took us like 6 months to implement it at our company. I'm like, 6 months to implement a product like this? This is insane. And I'm like, there just needs to be a modern day version. I'm gonna make this 10-20% better. Right? Like that's it.
That's all we did.
Like, I'm not reading
that's
this
all
man. I have TMF because I know that I'm one, building for myself, and then two, there's something that exists that I know it could be 10 times better.
Content repurposing, like Swell AI is the same thing. Like people have been doing content repurposing since the beginning of time. Right? Like I'm a journalist. I go interview people and I write an article. That is content repurposing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm taking raw materials and I'm putting it into a thing. Like all we're doing is just that, but with like a modern stack. It's the same thing. Yeah. Like the tool is AI now though. We can like deploy this junior employee to do these tasks for us.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's the same idea. And it's crazy to me. Also, that what's crazy to me is like, yeah, you want to go, like, you may have this huge vision. That's awesome. But like, there's a smaller thing you can do right now that is going to be way higher likelihood to like just improve your quality of life and get you to that thing. Right.
Yeah.
Like also half the time, like people are like, yeah, I want to do this massive thing. The sacrifice you have to make to do that massive thing is insane. Like you don't have a love life.
Yeah.
Like you are constantly fighting loneliness. You're like inferiority complex, like, whatever. Like you go down the list and all these people, they have the same, like you have to really weigh, like, is that actually what you want? Because there's all of these things that you have to sacrifice basically to get there. And in reality, for most people, it's like, nah, man, I want, I want a seaplane and I want to be able to see my family more. Cool. Like that's really what it comes down to.
Do you actually want a seaplane? That's pretty badass. You're right. That's really what it is. It's like ultimate freedom. And I hate airports personally. Like the whole problem.
Same. I love traveling.
I love traveling, but I hate airports. Like I hate that part of the process.
Totally. But I think it's classic entrepreneurship, right? Like, why do we do what we're doing?
Yeah.
It's like, it's freedom. It's like where I want, when I want, with who I want, doing whatever I want. It's like
make your own rules, basically, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, I haven't figured out another way to do this, to get those things, right? Besides like building companies.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm just going to keep doing this. Like, if there's a better way that if we figure out later, awesome. Like, I'll probably do that.
Yeah.
Right now, this is the only way that I can see forward.
Yeah. So. Yes, I think it's one of the best. If you look at all the sweaty startup people, they're talking about, the stuff. Some of them are my friends, are great, but like a lot of them realize that like all this other stuff I was doing, once they see what software can do and the way it can scale, they're like, yeah, let's do software.
Totally. Also with software, it's like, it's also like, again, if I was 20 and I had no money and I had to start over, what would I do? I would go build an agency that does a thing. Right now, if I was 20, this is exactly what I would do. I would go and I would start making clips for podcasts.
Yeah.
And I would cold DM every podcast that I could find everywhere. It's free, right? Make a LinkedIn, make a Twitter, go cold DM them. Do that. Charge like unlimited clips for like $500 a month, or something around there, right? And you basically just mine their podcast and pull out clips. You don't even have to do any like fancy editing. I'm just talking like it's just captions over it, right? Yeah. You find the viral moments and you give them that. I'd go get that to $10K a month, and then I would go and I'd build a Chrome extension after that, something that's super simple, right? Like it scrapes data from some platform, right? Yeah. And then I would grow that up to $10K a month. And then at that point, I would probably stop consulting and I would just go all in on, stop the agency and I'd go all in on the Chrome or on the software stuff.
Yeah.
Like that is how I would do this if I was young, and it would 100% work. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
So
agreed. I'm glad I kind of fell into this like right after college or young,
Totally.
Like, it's just, man, like at the time you didn't realize, but this is a long-term play, like luckily was fortunate enough to like have someone tell me like study engineering and do this software thing. It's going to be like the future. Like you like apps and shit, like do that, whoever pushed me that way. I was naturally always, building shit on the internet anyways, but like whatever, I'm just glad I had the freaking means to do that and like go that route.
Totally.
Dude,
I started out drop shipping. I was like, how do I make money online? And then of course this was 2012. And I'm like, all right, well, there's this print on demand thing. Let's like do that. Right. It was just like drop shipping. And then somehow that led to B2B. Like it's the same path, right? Yeah. It's like sell things on the internet and then you naturally end up in B2B SaaS if you're really good at marketing or sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
that is the trajectory.
Yeah, it really is, man. It really is. Well, dude, it's been great chatting, man. This has been a freaking amazing episode. All right, man. Well, dude, good having you on, man. Well, I'll probably be texting you later today about some where we're always doing something. So, all right, bro. I'll talk to you soon. Later, man. Later, Cody. Peace, bro.